Good morning. Hi, it is Stacy, and we are Loving My Veteran, and this is Walking in My Shoes this morning. So I want to tell everyone good morning. Let's take a minute to kind of get ourselves together here. Let everybody know we're here. Today's topic is you have a right to make decisions based on your feelings. Um, we have spent this whole month talking about our rights, our rights as humans, things that we have a right to do, and things that are actually going to make things a little better going forward in all of our relationships, not just our relationship with our veteran. These are really important that we understand that we have rights, and so often we tend to take our rights and push them down, and as a result we end up with unhealthy relationships, feeling way more down than we should. Good morning, Michelle. My God, I want to see your lovely face this morning. And so we push our feelings down, and when we do that, we end up in a situation we just don't want to be in. We've done this all month so far, and it has been very eye-opening for me to do this series, because I found that there are so many places that I fail myself. And I don't want this to sound like a self-centered series, because it's not, but you can't give the best of yourself to anybody if you're not already at the best of yourself. So to be the best that you can be as a wife, as a mother, as an employee, as an employer, as a friend, you have to be giving the best of yourself. And the only way that works is to become good for ourselves, and we tend to fail at that. That is probably the weakest link we all have as human beings, is just that ability to put ourselves first. And it's not making us self-centered, it's making us healthier. So today is, we have a right to make decisions based on your feelings. Have you ever had that day where you just wake up and things are not good? That was me today. Just saying, that was me today. We have a puppy, and God love him. He's 5 months old, and he broke his leg, and he's in a cast, and so he's wide open, and he's in the crate, and he's not supposed to jump. Tell a 5-month-old puppy he can't jump. He's not supposed to jump. He's not supposed to go outside unless he's on a leash. And then we have the 2 older dogs. Well, this morning I get up, and I was so smart. I was so excited. I put the coffee on auto brew, right? So I knew my coffee would be ready. And puppy is like barking, and he wants to go out. So his little wiggly self wants to just love all over me, and he wants to play. And of course he can't, right? So I have this puppy, and he's got to go out. So I take him out. And then the 2 big dogs want to go out, and then the puppy wants to go out and play with the big dogs, and the little fuzzy stuff they put inside of his cast, the cotton, is starting to come out, and he's jumping, and he's not allowed to jump, and he wants his breakfast, and then the big dogs want their breakfast, and I'm literally standing in the kitchen screaming. I'm screaming at the dogs, I'm screaming at everything, and I'm standing in the kitchen screaming, and I'm thinking, oh, this is not good. So what happens, my veteran, who doesn't sleep at night, tends to sleep when I get up for like 2 hours before he gets up, and that kind of gives him his downtime. So what does he wake up to? Not when he wanted to wake up. He wakes up to me, who is standing here screaming at puppy and 2 grown dogs. And I'm thinking, you must look like an idiot, right? You must look like an idiot. So my day started out like that, and I'm like, this is just, good morning, Kim. I'm like, this is just not what I need, you know. And so I had to take a deep breath, and I was like, I just don't want to do anything today. I want to go back to bed. And I'm like, no, you really don't. So I got everybody settled down, had my coffee, did my devotional, and I'm fine. But you can't make decisions, good ones, when you are in a spot, in an emotional place, because everything you do, morning Roxy, everything you do from that point on feeds off of your emotions. So if you're in a bad mood, every decision you make, if you decide to do something for somebody and you really don't want to do it because you're tired or you're in a bad mood or whatever, that's going to set the tone for that entire interaction. And that's scary. So you have a right to make decisions based on your feelings. If you feel it's overwhelming, just say no. Because if you don't, you're going to base that entire conversation off of your feelings. If you're feeling overwhelmed and you're feeling like you want to cry, or you feel like the world has added upon your shoulder more than you can handle, and you can't add anything else on your plate, okay? You can't add anything else on that plate because you're overwhelmed. When you take on more, your entire interaction with that taking on more is going to be whatever your tone is. So you have that right to make that decision not to get involved or get engaged in that. And a prime example is, I feel overwhelmed at times. Imagine that. But I feel overwhelmed at times. And so Carl is really good at trying to get me grounded and say, you need off. You need off. You need off. Well, I had a lot in my plate, and I didn't want to be off. I wanted to tackle, even in my head, with like some research I was doing or notes or whatever, while I was sitting on the couch with him, still engaging in a conversation, but in his space with him. But I wanted to do that because I'm one of these people that the more I get things done, the less stress I feel I have. So I just kind of wanted to get it done. And he's like, you need off, you need off. Well, by about the 8th time I heard you need off, I was in a flat out mood. And then he's like, well, you're not loving on me today. Well, no shit, Sherlock. I mean, that's just what I wanted to say. Because I had heard, you need off, you need off, you need off. And by then my anger and my wasn't really anger, it was my annoyance was through the ceiling. And I didn't want to be annoyed. Okay, I didn't want anything else done. Yeah, I feel accomplished when I get all my stuff done. But I didn't want anything else done because I felt like at that point I was failing, I was overwhelmed, and he was annoying the crap out of me. And I didn't want him to tell me I needed off. I wanted to do what I needed to do. And so what I find myself doing is I find myself putting my stuff aside to deal with him, not deal with because that's a bad word, but to accommodate him and have our time. And when I do that, then I'm overwhelmed the next day, or I find myself not being able to sleep at night and my mood is horrible. So you have that right to make that decision. You have that right to come in and say, you know what? I'm sorry, I have something I need to do, and I can't do this with you right now because you don't even have to give the justification. When you're overwhelmed, you don't have to give that justification. When you're in a mood, you don't have to give that justification. When you need to walk, you don't have to give that justification. And my relationship is not perfect. We struggle every single day, like every other relationship in this world. And people who tell you they don't lie a lot, okay? They lie a lot. We all struggle every single day in every relationship. PTSD, no PTSD, we do. So yesterday again, I'm feeling overwhelmed. There's this stuff just in my head, and God love Carl, who is like my greatest supporter, is just doing this, and I don't want this. I want some me. I need some space. So I put my earbuds in and I grabbed my bow and I went outside to shoot. Well, he wanted to finish conversation, and I'm like, I don't want to talk. Earbuds, see, that's the off side. It's kind of like hanging at the do not disturb sign at the hotel. When I put my earbuds in, it is like the do not disturb sign at the hotel. Don't come knocking on my door. Don't be beating on my door. Housekeeping. When I got those in, I want my time. So he follows me outside. He takes one of the earbuds out, which just set me into orbit, mind you. Okay? And he wanted to finish this conversation. And I finally just looked at him and I said, I can't I'm overwhelmed. Okay, so you have that right. You have that right to say, I can't because I feel this way. Went out, slung some arrows, felt better. We could have a real conversation. Okay, so I'm telling you, I want, the earbuds are great. Okay, they're like the do not disturb sign of life. And that's just something that you have to do. You have to be able to shut yourself off so that you don't make decisions that when you're worked up over something and you try to make those decisions and do for other people when you're worked up, that entire setting is going to be bad. That entire setting is going to be bad. All right, so here your boss has yelled at you at a meeting and you're sitting in your little thing and you've had this meeting and he calls you out on the table in front of God and everybody because, you know, heaven forbid they just take you aside like normal people and just have a conversation, okay? But that's going on, and then you're sitting in your office and about 10 minutes later somebody else walks in and says, I need you to do this. And you just want to look at him and say, are you flipping kidding me? Did you not just hear him yell at me because I wasn't being productive and now you want to add more to my plate? So when you say yes to something and you're already worked up, one, you're not going to give it 100%, okay? And two, it's just going to take your level of anger or frustration to a higher level. So you have that right to make decisions based on your feelings. You have that right to make decisions based on your feelings. And we don't tend to do that. We tend to push our feelings down and not let them come out because we feel like we need to do things to make other people happy at our expense. And that's a tough pill to swallow. I'm a people pleaser. That's what I do. Okay, if I had to define me, I'm a people pleaser. That's what I do. I take care of people. That's what I do. But you can't take care of them at your own expense. And I find that very hard to do. I find that very hard to say no when it's going to be at my own expense. And I think that of all the things that I talk about in the rights in this series, this is probably the hardest right that I have to learn to exercise. You can't always tell people yes. You have to say no sometimes. Because if you don't, you're doing it at your own expense. And when you do that, you set yourself up to fail at everything else you're doing. Your feelings and your mood set the tone for you for that day. Okay, so it is hard to grasp. I don't grasp it well. Carl will be back through in a minute and he will tell you I fail at that regularly. Okay, rather than talk to him about what's bothering me or saying to him, babe, I just can't right now. I need some space. I don't do that. I just do whatever. And then I end up exploding like a freaking volcano, and the ash and the fire and the brimstone are all falling around. And for what? To say hurtful things to him because I'm uptight? Because when we hurt, we project those feelings. Okay? So if we are hurting and we are in a painful place and we're feeling angry or hurt or resentful, we tend to project those feelings onto somebody else. So rather than me just say, I don't want to talk about it, or I'll talk about it in a little bit, give me 5 minutes to get myself together, or turn around and talk to him in a normal tone of voice, this goes on, and then when I erupt like this ugly volcano, or in Roxy's words, turn into the dragon lady, and I don't turn into the dragon lady, okay? Carl says, oh, you're like this angel. I'm like, no, my horns, my devil horns hold my halo on straight, okay? But when I get to that way, the halo comes slinging off and the devil horns are out and the pitchfork and the fire and the hail and the brimstone, and I'm just spewing hateful things because I hurt so everybody else around me should hurt. That's all right not to make decisions based on our feelings. Now flip this around. Flip this totally around. When our veterans are in a place, okay, when our veterans are in a place and they are hurting and they can't necessarily tell us that they're hurting, where do you think the hateful words and the anger and all that stuff come from? Because they get to a point, they explode, and all that hurt and anger comes out. And like I said, this is probably the hardest skill of all of these that I've had to learn to master. And I'm not even close to mastered. I barely opened the book on this one. I get to I open the title page and it says, make decisions based on your feelings. And I'm like, oop, can't do that. And I shut the book. I slam the book shut. Because I don't think I'm entitled to feel this way. I don't think I'm entitled to have bad days. I don't think I'm entitled to cry. I don't think I'm entitled to be overwhelmed. I try to push it all aside so I can take care of everybody else. Because that's what I do. And so that's what I do. So when you think about that, when we get to that point, we explode. I call it vomit of words, and it is not pretty, and I don't do vomit well, but I vomit words really good, and they're very painful. Because I find when I'm hurting, y'all, I find the most painful thing ever to spew out of my mouth. When I'm hurting, the most painful thing ever spews out of my mouth. And that's so wrong. But I do it, and I know I'm doing it, and I should be able to stop it, but I can't get to this little section right here in my little day planner that says you have a right to make decisions based on your feelings. Because if I felt like doo-doo, I wouldn't be talking and I wouldn't be spewing. And I wouldn't be taking on more than I can handle on that day. And we do that. We tend to do that. When you're overwhelmed, you can't go on. What happens when, and this is where the spiral effect comes in. This is where things spiral downward, where the mountain builds up to where we can't carry it. It just depends on whether you're the half full, half empty kind of person. But here's what happens. So all of this stuff has come into our life that we have to deal with, okay? Whether it's stuff your veteran's going through, stuff you're going through, whatever. It's all coming in. And it's time for you to have that talk. Okay? That talk. You're trying to communicate. You're trying to figure out what's going on. You're trying to have that talk, whether it's on me, whether it's on him, doesn't matter who. Right? And I'm already in a bad place. So when I try to have that talk, because I'm overwhelmed by all the things that are going on, guess what happens? I spew anger, it fuels the fire, and now we have more stuff that we have to talk about, and nobody's getting productive. Does that make sense? Nobody's getting productive when you're that way. So, trying to have a conversation with our veteran when they're in that mood. We say it all the time. Oh, we can't talk to him when he's like that. We can't talk to her when she's like that. We try to do it all the time. We say it all the time. That kind of is like the theme of all the support groups. I can't talk to him when he's like this. I can't talk to them when they're like that. Yeah, but you know what? They can't talk to us when we're like that either. You can't talk to people when they're in that mood. It's not productive. Okay, so It's all about delivery. It's all about how we feel. It's all about emotion. I'm going to tell you right now, absolutely right now, when Carl is triggered and in a place, I might as well be talking to that wall. Okay? But I realized, I can't let people say this on a recorded thing, but I realized when I'm in a place and I'm spewing out negative and I'm on my own rampage, he can't talk to me either. He might as well be talking to that wall. Okay, that's a hard reality to face. So timing in our communication is everything. And we can't, you have that right to have that decision based on your feelings. When you're feeling completely overwhelmed by the situation, that is not the time to have the conversation in the heat of the conversation. It's not going to work. So I tell you how to write it down. I have found that really does help. I really have found that helps. But I am a journaler by nature. I write by nature. It's just something I do. But if you can, whether he feels it first or you feel it first or it's overwhelming or whatever that has created this negative emotion in you, right? And you try to address it while you're in that negative space, it is completely and totally overwhelming. Completely and totally overwhelming at that point, right? And that's where you are, completely and totally overwhelmed at that point. Nothing good is going to come out of it. So if you write it down, write down what you have to talk about. Write down what's important to you. Write them down. And then when you approach your veteran, or you approach your boss, or you approach whatever, you have a list and always prioritize it. Because I'm going to tell you right now, and it's happened to us, when he's in a place and negativity's coming out, and I'm in a place and negativity's coming out, right? And then he starts to come back at me, and it is, you don't do this right, or this right, or this right, or this right, or this right, and I'm the same way. I'm like, well, you can't do this right, and this right, and this right. We shut off. So if you make your list and you deal with one or two things at a time, it's not overwhelming to anybody. And therefore, you're both in a better place. But you have to make decisions based on your emotions. You can't try, you have that right. If you're feeling overwhelmed, you have that right to stand up and say, I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed. You feel like he's in a negative place every second of the day. Jess, I get that because we went through that. We went through that. I found that he is better for me, and I think everybody will find their own time. But Carl is better for me first thing in the morning. We used to get up early in the morning, we still do, and have our coffee. Even before this, we have our coffee. And I can usually talk to him at that point in the day. But only after he has finished his first cup, usually on his second cup, and had at least 2 cigarettes. Don't overwhelm them, like as soon as their feet hit the floor and they got the coffee in the cup and they haven't quite sat down. I found that works. It's kind of like, and a lot of times parents will talk about this when they come home. Like, I stayed home with my kids for a little bit when they were little, and when my ex-husband would walk in the door, I'm like, do you know what your kid's today? He ain't even got his jacket off yet, right? And he worked construction. So he might be exhausted, right? Exhausted, totally exhausted. And he may have had a bad day or whatever, but before he ever walks in the door, I'm like, no, 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 no. Okay, so as soon as you hit them with that, they shut off. So you have to find that place. And Jess, I don't mind if you want to message me. We can set up some one-on-one and talk about it further about what works for you. But I'm telling you, this works. You can't be in that place. You can't be trying to talk when you're in that place, or when he's in that place, or when anybody's in that place. So just stop and realize your feelings are important. Because when you push your feelings down and you let everybody else dump on top of you, or you, being the fixer, take everybody else's stuff in with you, right, and put it all up on your shoulders and try to carry it all, then all of a sudden you're just going to explode, and it's never good. It's never good when you get to that point. So it is very important that we learn to do that. The other thing that I think is incredibly important, and I'm going to share this with you, and we're going to try to work on a way to make this work throughout this group, is I would like to have us form a partnership with somebody else in the group. Michelle and I are very good friends, and Roxy, and I can tend to share with Michelle when I'm overwhelmed, and she can share with me when she's overwhelmed, and it's somebody who understands, and it's somebody you can vent to who gets it. But I think if you always had somebody in this group that you could talk to, or text or message and say, look, he's there, because you become more personal, and I think it is very important that you have that buddy. It is very important that you have somebody to go through it. What does Patricia say? They take it out on us when we didn't do anything to them, to do it to us, and they feel like they took it out on us because what they experienced trauma in their life, and they take it out on our person. They do. They do, and we're going to get through that. Patricia, I will actually do a thing on some of communication today, the written stuff, and put it in the blog because that was already on my list. And how we get past that. How do we get past that? That negativity is so there with them at times. And it's just getting worse. And I will tell you this, I will post them in the group, not on the page. I posted some pictures offline today that were heart-wrenching and really made me sick at my stomach, to be honest. And it's what DC looks like today. When you have razor wire around the Capitol and you have 50,000 armed troops standing shoulder to shoulder, that is what they experienced. That is what they experienced over there. And so we are bringing that right back to their living room. So I'm going to tell you flat out that the next 2 or 3 days are probably not the time to talk to them about anything. Okay? Probably the next 2 or 3 days are not the time to talk to anything. And I know I don't want anybody in an abusive situation. I don't want anybody going through anything that's tough. But I'm telling you, if you see the images that I saw today, which I will post in the group, not on the page because I don't want to trigger the veterans themselves, you will all of a sudden begin to understand. I'm with you, Roxy. I love our country. And for us to see it do this is heartbreaking, but imagine what it's like for them. So when we're talking about making decisions based on emotions, they're not going to be able to make a very good decision in the next 2 or 3 days based on what I'm fixing to share with y'all on that page, because it is heart-wrenching. So imagine their emotional place. And I don't care if they don't watch the news, they're going to see these images. They come up at some point. Okay? So I'm just putting that out there when we're saying we have the right to make decisions based on our feelings. We also have to understand that that's not just our right, that's their right, that's our boss's right, that's our parents' right, that's everybody's right. So I'm just telling you, they may or may not want to talk about it, but those emotions are going to be very raw over the next few days when you see it. Okay? It is a very big deal. I have that same issue. When I see this, it breaks my heart. And so it is very hard for me. It was very hard for me to pull the images. But I wanted to pull them because I think most people are visual, and I think that when you see the images that I saw today, you're going to understand. When you see the images I saw today, you're going to understand, because we are very visual people. So again, we have that right to make decisions on based on our emotions. Probably Roxy. Is that why he was cranky yesterday? Yeah. He would too. Morning, Sophia. He would too. So making our decisions based on our emotions is important. When you're overwhelmed, when you're completely overwhelmed, it just happens. When you are really in that space, you can't make good decisions. And no, they don't verbalize it. They don't verbalize it well at all. In fact, I will probably, if you guys think it is necessary, I will probably do another live this afternoon where I talk about the images and what they're going through from their perspective, because I've got some veterans who will talk to me and tell me their perspective. And I think that may be eye-opening to a lot of us, what we're seeing and what they're seeing. So I can do that as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wrap this up. Yeah, it is necessary. It's going to be tough. Yes, Roxy, like going shopping when you're upset. I love you. I love Roxy. Roxy had her hair did, okay, and conditioned yesterday, so she wouldn't be upset. I love Roxy.
She's a trip.
She's it. Hey, oh, by the way, baby, I
Yes,
just
ma'am.
want you to know, I did say this. When I get overwhelmed, do I not vomit the most hateful words on the planet to you?
On a weekly basis.
Daily basis, probably.
No, not daily. Usually like once a week, once every 2 weeks.
But it happens when I'm overwhelmed, right? When we get into it, I vomit words that are very ugly.
Only when I ask you what's wrong.
Love you.
Love you more.
So, see, I'm just telling you what we got. So I just think that it is important that we understand this. Our emotions play a huge role. So don't take on, when you're in that space, don't take it on. Let it go. At least it's not daily. I know. Look, I'm telling you, little victories. We've gone from daily to once every week or two. Who makes me happy. That is a huge thing for us. And that's what I'm trying to tell y'all. This journey, y'all, it's not going to be perfect every day. It's not perfect every day. I still vomit really ugly words, and I'm the one talking to y'all about doing it. And then he looks at me and he goes, "Did you practice what you preach?" And he scrolls through. Okay, he scrolls through and he finds the video that I talk about this stuff on. And he's like, "Watch this." And I'm like, "Ooh, shit." So we have a huge disadvantage there. Yeah. Sophia, we're all in this funk because of PTSD. So what I'm going to do is when I do the live this afternoon, I will do it. Let's say 2 o'clock Eastern time. I will do a live, but I'm only going to do it in the group. Okay, I'm going to do a live, but I'm only going to do it in the group because I don't think that necessarily we want to put a trigger out there on the regular page. So I will do a live and I will talk to you about what they're seeing and what they're feeling. And you will have already seen the pictures in the group. So at 2 o'clock Eastern time today, I will do that because I just think it's really important that we understand. We have to walk in their shoes just like they have to walk in ours. And this is the time that we have to put our big girl panties on, our big boy panties on, and suck it up for a few days, because when you see and you realize what's going on, it will make so much more sense to you. All right, y'all. This has been a great session. This is tough for us. I cannot wait to do tomorrow's. It is about, we have the right to have our own personal space and time. We have that right. Own personal space and time. Own personal space and time. And I think as a woman, you lose that the moment you have children, because they follow you to the bathroom your entire life. My teenage kids would sit outside and knock on the bathroom door. "Hey, Mom, can I go here?" Because they were figuring, I guess, I was in the shower. I'd say yes, but I didn't, and it was great. So it is one of those things that happen. But we have the right to our own personal space and time. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow. Y'all, it has been a blessed day. I have a lot to do today. I'm gonna put a lot of stuff up on blogs and post, and may even send out another newsletter kind of deal. If y'all need me, please message me. I don't mind, especially trying to get through these next couple of days with people. I am here for you. We are here as a community. I just want y'all to know that. Sophia, if you need me, holla. Holla. We can get through this. I'm Stacy. This has been Walking in My Shoes, and we are loving my veteran. Have a blessed day. I will see you on the page, on the group at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. Have a blessed day.